do it online. It's not long. I'm standing like an hour and a half.
I think it's
For live next meeting.
Is it on the?
Probably on the
At least, maybe I just don't remember.
I'd like to call to order the February 2022 meeting of the High Point Regional Board of Education. For the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Open Public Meetings Act statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Augusta, Branchville, and Sussex post offices, and notice sent to the New Jersey Herald, the Advertiser North, and the clerk of the boroughs of Branchville and Sussex and the townships of Frankfort, Lafayette, and Wantage. Our mission statement. High Point Regional High School, in partnership with staff, family, and community, is dedicated to the quest for individual excellence. By fostering high standards of achievement, we prepare students to become responsible and productive members of a diverse society. I call for roll call, please.
Spencer Arnold.
Here.
Richard Klein.
Here.
Joseph Concord.
Here.
Elizabeth Schumann. Here. Joe Carrazzo.
Here.
All right. Diane. Here. Wayne Dunn.
Here.
Gail Casona.
Here.
Jill Ireland.
Here.
Dr. Ripley.
Here.
Myself. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Excellent. Okay, so a motion will be made that the High Point Regional High School Board of Education enter executive session to provide an update on legal, personnel, and negotiation items which are exempt from public participation pursuant to New Jersey Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, Open Public Meetings Act. Any discussions held by the board which need not remain confidential will be made public when appropriate. Minutes of the executive session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. The board will reconvene in public session, in person and virtually, at the conclusion of the executive session. It is not anticipated that any action will be taken, and for the public, we expect that to be approximately 7 p.m. May I have a motion
Motion.
and a second?
Second.
Any, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now in executive session. And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now in public session. We will return to our agenda. We have no unfinished business items this evening, so that brings us to approval of minutes. Regular meeting minutes and executive session meeting minutes of January 2022. Ask for rundown on those.
Absolutely. The regular meeting, was January 24th, 2022. It opened at 5 minutes after 6. We had a quorum. That meeting included the standard meeting items, financial, transportation, principals report, HPA report, athletic report, curriculum, and first and second readings of some policies. There was no outstanding or unusual resolutions on that particular meeting, and we closed at 7:54 p.m. The executive session for the same meeting, January 24th, 2022. The executive session was held to discuss legal matters, personnel, and negotiations. The legal matters that were discussed cannot be disclosed yet. They are not available and ready for public discussion. Personnel, the items discussed are still confidential and not yet available for public discussion. Negotiations with the HPA and the High Point Board of Education were being finalized at that January meeting, and there is a vote on tonight's agenda, and that will be a public vote.
Excellent. May I have a motion on the acceptance of those minutes?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? No. None?
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Ms. Sedona?
Yes.
Ms. Smith? Yes. Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Concord?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Abstain?
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Crazza?
Abstain.
Both motions carried.
Okay. That brings us to our first public comments section of the evening on agenda items only. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, we will open the public to for public comments for agenda items only at this time. Each speaker should state his or her name and address. He will have 3 minutes to address the board, which will be timed by myself. We will limit this section to no longer than 45 minutes. We ask that you please be respectful and mindful that your comments are being recorded. We have the ability to make public comments either in person at our podium or virtually via our online platform. We'll first look for anyone in the room that would like to make comments in person. If there are none, then I'll turn to see if we have anyone waiting in our virtual platform who would like to make comments. Agenda items. Going once. Okay, may I have a motion to close the public comments section?
Motion.
In a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that brings us to our presentations for the evening. Our first presentation, she just showed up, is Ms. Ariana Kochikaru, Speaker of the House, will update the board on the activities of the Student Council. Welcome.
Thank you.
Sorry to rush you right to the podium.
It's a good time. It's just
Take your time.
I will begin referring back to my previous subject, other board meetings. Student Council began a initiative to bring about a better environment at the school. And we started this February with a caring and compassion presentation, and the entire month is being around those two traits. We created inspirational posters and put them around the school, and we had National Random Acts Kindness Day, which was last week. Next month in March, it'll be Positivity Month, which we will also have hopefully a presentation, or we might also do a similar idea with Spirit Week, perhaps. Still up to date. Club advisors will also be encouraged to participate in this initiative, but it's up to the clubs really. And we will have a spirit week between the 28th to 4th of March. Sunday will be athlete and athlete day. That's like a famous musician. Wednesdays we wear pink and country club and country day. And then Friday is class toppers.
Ariana, I just wanted to say that oftentimes we find ourselves in positions of responsibility that people recognize our work, such as you are in that position. And sometimes it's difficult, given the circumstances in life, whether it's pouring rain or you have a lot of homework or other things that are going on. But I will tell you this, when you are faithful and dependable, people can rely upon you to show up, even if it's seemingly something that is not necessarily particularly weighty, but it is. People notice, and essentially what you're doing is you're demonstrating your daily walk of character and faithfulness by being here. I want you to know that we appreciate it and are very thankful that you are as faithful. It's a demonstration of your character. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Next presentation, the scheduled is Ms. Carla Mancuso, the HPEA president. Will update us on Board of Education on the HPEA items.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Dr. Regularly. I'm walking a lot better. I fell off my mother's stairs last week.
Oh, no.
Yes, but I saved the food.
It's always important.
Always important. Beth Wilton, guidance counselor and negotiations queen. Margaret Darren, paraprofessional to the utmost. Joanne Klatch, another guidance counselor. Karen Vandergroup, secretary of guidance. Michael Langman, history teacher. I think this is just the start. We made it through half this year. It's February. I would never have predicted that we would have made it this far in person, which is great. Great news. Great for the students, great for the staff, and we're plugging away. But to hear that these people are on. And again, halfway point, it's amazing. Every day is a challenge. We're in it together. We pull together, we support each other. If something needs to be covered, we're right there. And it's good to know that. I think the only thing, interpretations we have, of course, March 7th, no man. And we've already said a lot of the staff will be made masked, and the students are already, woo, great. But it is what it is, and we'll move through it. Again, we're halfway through the year, and I think when I'm 3 to 2. That was a good turnout. We've never had that turnout, because it's come out and go for what we ratified. So it was nice to see that we're all together on that. I think the biggest trepidation is that we're not getting students, the teachers, for the staff, because we've been talking about it. We just hope next year that we have the stability that we've had this year to move forward. And we appreciate all your support in that matter. Thank you for all your service. And hopefully we won't get a snow day on Friday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have the principal's report and athletics, Mr. John Palamé.
Good evening, everyone. It's a beautiful night, a little bit of rain, I guess, a little bit of wind and all things going on. So a couple things that we have going on for our school events. Our guidance department, that Mrs. Lane, who will speak to you a little bit in a few minutes, is rocking and rolling on the schedule build for next year. Some of you as parents may have already gone through that process with your sons and daughters as they begin their scheduling in courses. Going out for our 8th graders this happening very soon as well. So February, March are busy schedule season. As we lay the groundwork for that aspect of it, and really great collaboration over course of the last 4 or 5 months, lower attendance issues, because that is a large puzzle to put together. As a regional school, we're blessed, but it also brings challenges of getting all those things together. So thank you to Ms. Delaney and the guidance and child safety team and all the people working on that as we continue to do that every day. A couple of student accomplishments this past week or so, or past couple of weeks. Unfortunately, our mock trial team was in the finals for the county tournament last week, Thursday, and they lost in a tough battle against Newton. Uniquely, the mock trial competition is still virtual, which creates some, for those of you that may have spent some time there, Mr. Arnold, creates a little bit of a unique environment. Mr. Crowder, a little bit about the courtroom, and there's a presence, right, that comes with being in the courtroom and body language, reading those things. So doing it virtually on a Zoom meeting is challenging, to say the least. However, all that being said, no excuses, they fought hard. Came in second, looking to have several of their attorneys come back next year for that. So kudos to Mr. Russell and the mock trial team. We also had several archery students. Yes, the archery students that competed in our state competition last week, led by Mr. Hensel. Mr. Carl Hensel, who was the leader on that, has brought archery to High Point as a class for our possessed students, which was very, very well participated in, and also an archery club. And so students participated in that shoot last week. What happens is they all get tabulated in the score. Again, it's virtual in terms of their score gets tabulated into a system, and then they decide if they're able to qualify for nationals. We had several students shoot very well. Out of a score of 300, that's what the score is based on, so we'll see what that looks like. But again, thank you, Mr. Hansel, Mr. Dexter, and the Phys Ed department for coordinating that. As Ariana just spoke about, the student council team is working on a regular basis. We talk a little about that each month. Thank you to the student council representatives, their officers and leaders, and also to the climate team. We're working every single day just on building us up as a school community, continue to lay the groundwork for that foundation. So student council is working on that every day. Climate team also does some presentations to our student body as well. So really a great collaboration of all areas kind of pointing in direction for that. Also, congratulations to somebody you may know, to co art students who have been recognized over the course of this last week or a couple months, or a month or so, and Ariana is one of those students. So congratulations to Ariana on her honorable mention award for the 2022 Scholastic Art and Writing Competition. This is directly from Mrs. Sheenice, her teacher. Sorry, Ariana, to embarrass you here. This prestigious honor and the first student in Mrs. Sheenice's 12-year High Point career to receive recognition in this competition. So kudos to Ariana. I've not seen Ariana before. Many of our students achieved at a high level of that. And speaking of that, we also had a couple other students that were able to participate in the 10th annual Peters Valley School of Art exhibit. And we were one of 7 participating high schools and took both second and third place in the weekend opening. And that was for Madeline McCurdy in second place and Brianna Dunn in third place. So kudos to them, and Mrs. Aaron Myers was supporting teacher on that with the whole entire art. Mr. Sack, Mr. Piazino, Mr. Sheenice, and also Mr. Hero, that aspect of it. So kudos to the art department and our art students for continuing to shine every single day. We're also working with, sounds crazy, but our senior officers and our advisor on senior activities. I know it's February, but we gotta think about what June looks like, what May looks like, what April looks like, and everything between, right? So we're working on a lot of student activities, trying to build their level of recognition as much as that we can, because as you know, as we talk about often, and Dr. May talk about often, 2 years is a long, long time that many of the students had not been able to participate in a lot of things. So we're trying the best that we can to be creative and outside the box with some activities. We have obviously the senior prom is going to be part of that. We're looking at an idea called College and Career Decision Day or Futures Day, which we've done in the past, in a small version. But we want to go big this year and celebrate their recognition for college, career, military, and all their achievements. So we're looking at some fun ideas, and they're very creative. The 4 officers are awesome. Got me up with ideas all the time. So we're starting to think about that one. Things great. Like, what does it look like? How do we do it, right? Those are important things. So we're working on that, and that will, more information about that will be coming forward as we continue to try to work through the snow and the winter that's in front of us. Okay. Mr. Downs, okay if I go to that?
Please do.
All right. So for Mr. Dexter's desk, we have several things to recognize. Leah Rubo is National Girls and Women's Sports nominee this year. Again, unfortunately, a prestigious award. They did not have a in-person banquet, for lack of a better term, an award ceremony. They did that virtually. Can't change that. That's outside of our organization. But we're very excited for Leah, and we're very honored to have her represent High Point for this prestigious nomination. Vaughn Burnell was selected as our scholar athlete from the National Greater Football Foundation. That's an award that, again, we work through each year, and it's just a nomination process for that. They are looking to have an in-person event, which will be good, that's March 31st. Next week, we have our scout athlete, Miss Hannah Doyle, next week, Wednesday the 2nd, so we're looking forward to recognizing and honoring her, and her parents as well. And that will be at Grown Farms. We had girls wrestling this weekend. If you have not heard already, if you were someplace sheltered away and you didn't see any of the announcements or social media or newspaper articles, we had a wrestling champion crowned this weekend. Noel Gaffney, 165 pounds, was the first High Point wrestling champion, also first in Sussex County for female wrestling, which is an outstanding honor. She started about 16 months ago wrestling, and that's a pretty cool story, right? In terms of aspect of it. She was one of the few students that was able to participate in the season that got moved. Last year, wrestling got moved. Remember all that stuff we went through got moved, it was in March. But she was able to finish up basketball and then start wrestling. And she did that. She loved it so much that she came back this year and chose to do wrestling instead of basketball. Now it's a big choice for her because she's pretty good. And she's really good at basketball too. So amazing things that happened. We're very proud of her. Sophia Lombardo was also 4th in the state. We had Carney Wahoo 6th in the state as well. So again, we had 3 girls that competed at a high level all season long, and we're recognized at the end of the day for that. So kudos to Mr. Gardner, Coach Gardner, and Coach Bang, as they worked, not just them, but particularly those two for their leadership with them every single day in practice as well. Some athletic teams update: girls basketball 14-8, they qualified for the state tournament. Boys basketball 7-13, they qualified for the state tournament too, which is going to be on Monday. Both of them are in a state game. Girls are playing Paquonic and the boys are playing Jefferson. So that's their state games as well. Bowling is wrapping up this week, and they have their next week. They have they'll call their family bowling day, where they invite all the staff, and it's an end of year celebration and a good, again, community type of opportunity for them, which is really fun. Ice hockey is actually playing right now, all the way down at Howell for their state match as well. So we're looking forward to that. I was at the senior night on Saturday. Unfortunately, they lost. It was a neat environment because, as you know, we're a tryout, right? We're a tryout, right? And we also have Votech participate as well, because Votech does not have an ice hockey team, so they're able to participate at the local school district. So to see seniors from really 4 different schools, it's pretty cool and neat thing. They didn't play overall as well as they wanted to, but at the end of the day, they were there together and had a nice packed crowd for that as well. So kudos to the ice hockey team and coaches. Boys swimming finished up 3 and 5, girls swimming 1 and 7, and wrestling continues to roar. NJAC League champions runner up in Group 2. Tough loss over the course of the last week and a half. They had districts this past weekend, 2 district champs, district team of the year, district coach of the year, and most outstanding wrestler with Clayton Utter for that prestigious award as well. So that's a really great, not only an individual aspect of it, besides the fact that it had 6 or 7 others move forward, right? Not just an individual aspect of team wrestling, but the fact that each one of those individuals can have it recognized at their own level as well, which is a pretty cool thing. John Post also qualified for media champions, which is a pretty prestigious swimming award. The 100 free and 100 back, and John is a sophomore, so we expect a lot of things from him as well. And last but certainly not least, we had athletes of the week: Brandon Kubiak and Carney Weibel, Ashley Ritson, Donna McCoonan, and Michael Sadowski, Emma Lazier, John Ripley, Hannah Doyle, and Sandra Higgins in the course of the last 3 or 4 weeks of recognition for that. A lot of information, but I want to make sure I got all those student accolades out there, which is the most important thing. Any questions for me on any of that, Ron? Good stuff. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And our final presentation is curriculum instruction by Mr. Seamus Campbell.
Good evening. I just want to say it's great that our athletes had a full season in person, few interruptions, and next month when we're here, some of us will be maskless, we hope. So we're really making progress, and sometimes we take it for granted, but when you look back last year compared to this year, really some things to be optimistic about and happy. Speaking of things to be happy for, state testing is coming up, and I always say thank you. It is not why most students and staff get out of bed in the morning with a spring in their step. However, perspective, right? 10 years ago, Clark came out, and we had a massive statewide opt-out. And it was hectic and chaotic, and it was not implemented in an easy and smooth fashion. Fast forward to 10 years, we create a comfortable testing environment, The amount of tests and the duration of the tests have been reduced, and so we're very pleased about that. There is one new test, it's essentially the exact same test, they just changed the name to it. We have 3 weeks from today, the New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment. Essentially, our juniors take their math and English test a bit early, so we can get results on whether or not they've met the required score for graduation. It's very manageable, it's just the juniors. 3 months from today, or from this week, we have our NJSLA, which is almost exclusively freshmen, with the exception of juniors also take a science test. Very few sophomores, only sophomores enrolled in Algebra 1 test this year, and no seniors test. So again, there are fewer students testing, it's manageable. Both our staff and our students are in a routine where we administer it with, without too much stress. And I want to thank my administrator, Ms. Jessica Briggs, who could orchestrate 1,000 people on a dime. She does so much of the legwork to help organize our testing. So one of the things that's very nice about being in a school is when all students and all staff can have a common experience. And we strive, as in recent times, to do this more often. And last week, we were able to do this. Thank you to Ms. Corey Leola Diodino for reaching out and securing the services of a nationally recognized, published, award-winning documentarian and photographer, Mr. Jonathan Hyman. He came here to High Point and he did 5 presentations, 1 for each grade and 1 for the staff. And again, if you think about this, the next day, all teachers and all students had a common point of reference that they could connect on. And I think that's a very valuable part of the curriculum. When students came to the auditorium, they anticipated 9/11 photography, that they would see many of the historic and tragic photos that are seared into our memories. But they did not, because this artist had a different perspective. And he said, when everyone with the camera was moving to ground zero, I went in the opposite direction. And for 20 years, what he captured was the phenomenon of the human spirit and of a pop culture moment where Americans decided in a very public and unique way to express grief and patriotism and anger and remorse and loss, etc. So he is an artist who documents memorials. And he was drawn to this type of art when he saw what he thinks is a unique form of art, which is these flyers and photos all over the city, collages of families just desperately wanting people to recognize their loved one. He said, I photographed everything I saw, whether I liked it, didn't like it, agreed with it, didn't agree with it. I wanted to capture how the nation expressed emotion publicly post 9/11. And I think he said, indescribably personal loss, memorialized in a profoundly public manner. And so his exhibit was everything from classic city murals, right, to countryside scenes. He compared this to the Vietnam Memorial because there were hundreds of names and it had that same concept of memorializing a loved one. So there were houses. Quite a bit of what he photographed is body art. And it was a very unique and personal way to pay tribute to those that we lost. Automobiles, this is perhaps his most famous photo, flag trees in Newtown, Connecticut. So we were really pleased to have him, and again, to have that common experience for our students. And he spoke at length about what it meant to be a documentarian and an artist. And I thought it also was a valuable cross-cultural experience where art and sociology and history, etc., come together and experience something as one. And I have the pleasure of introducing my friend and colleague, Mrs. Courtney Delaney, who has an incredibly difficult job. to oversee special education, the child study team, and the guidance department at a high school is an incredibly difficult task. When we interviewed Mrs. Delaney, we were blown away by her personality and her experience. She's very pleased to be here. She's seamlessly transitioned into our staff. I think she likes the commute quite a bit because she was traveling to Manhattan for 10 years. But here to talk about transition for our special education students and the scheduling process, Mrs. Delaney.
All right. Hello, everybody. It's so nice to finally be here in person with you guys. And I'm really thrilled and excited to talk a little bit about our community here at High Point and some things that we want to build on that have already been put in place. So I'm gonna get started. First of all, I always love starting off with pictures of our kids, right? That's why we're here. And a few of these pictures I just wanted to highlight for you are some things that have sort of inspired the work that I'm going to be embarking on for next school year. And it's really about inclusion and not having limits on our children. And some of the things that are featured here are our Winter Olympic celebration that some of our students engaged in. And one of the things that was most powerful and valuable about that is the students support each other. So some of the students that participated in this have paraprofessionals or educational assistants. And one of the big goals for the teacher was that the kids will help each other, and we will put in place the things that remove the barriers that allow all of our kids to participate actively. And Mr. Talman and I had some good fun doing some curling and some other events. It was really nice event for our school community. We also visited the No Limits Cafe. So you'll see some of our students at the bottom, and we're so grateful to your support of that trip, where kids got to go to a restaurant. They ordered completely on their own. They shared menus. They were at tables enjoying a community meal with each other and served food by see people that are like them holding jobs in the community. It was a really powerful experience. It's inspirational for our kids, but also for our teachers to think about how can things be even better here. And so that's what I sort of want to chat with you guys a little bit about. The other piece too is there's some guidance photos up there, but one of the things I love about guidance is that we really want to bring community events, right? And the community means everybody. So right before the holiday break, we created some different experiences where we made ornaments, we played different games, and we really fostered an opportunity for all students to participate actively, and made approaches that will allow everyone to engage in those activities. So that's sort of some of the photos here, and we have some different sciencey pictures of kids doing some experiments just for fun. All right. All right, so I'm gonna talk a little about fostering an inclusive school community. So you guys will see our little image up here. We have exclusion, that means kids are not allowed in, they're not permitted to be part of the community. We have segregation, which is like two separate places. We have integration, where folks are embedded in the community, but in a separate spot. And then we have inclusion, right? That's our ideal. We have a school community where everyone is welcome in athletics, extracurricular activities, classroom experiences, community events, and it's intentional. We're really good about putting on lots of different events and welcoming everybody, but how can we intentionally remove the barriers for all of our kids? So we don't have to go, oh, Susie's attending, what do we have to do for Susie, right? It's more that this event welcomes everybody and permits everybody to participate. In the same way that a ramp into a building, if you have a wheelchair, you can come in, but you can also walk in on your 2 feet as well. So that's something we're starting to think a little bit about. The other piece is presumed competence. So this is a real mindset around, sometimes when we see someone perhaps in a wheelchair or with different needs, we're gonna assume, oh, I have to help them, right? And especially for me transitioning from middle schoolers to high schoolers, I'm thinking of them as young adults, right? How is this person able to be independent by being allowed opportunities to do so? So that idea of presumed competence is very important as well. So how are we gonna get there? So the first day of 9th grade, we're preparing for adulthood. And that's for some families is like super shocking. For other families are like, bring it on, right? We've got to start to think about what is it gonna look like when my child is 18, 19, 20, 21. And that idea of community is really essential. And that's one of the beautiful things about a regional high school, is that our students here are our community and they're going to be members of our community after they graduate. So for us, we want to be really intentional about beginning transition programming on the first day students are here. And that sort of links to the guidance work we're doing, creating a really thoughtful structure of curriculum that allows students in 9th grade to start building their skills with computer concepts around how to access curriculum, how to stay organized, how to use those Google tools, job skills, how to apply for jobs, how to interview, how to prepare and have interests, life skills, right? Some of the basics. Some of our kids who don't know how to set up budgets, do laundry, things like that, grocery shopping, cook, yes, all those important things. And then also consumer math, right? When kids get to 12th grade, how do I take out a loan? What does credit look like? All those things we want our kids to have, bank accounts, etc. And that's sort of the beginning parts in 9th through 12th grade, as well as a rich and robust curriculum that prepares them to read and write and do math in ways that are meaningful. The program I really want to focus on is our 18 to 21-year-olds. It's a really exciting bunch of kids. They're on that precipice of adulthood, they're getting ready, and we've really laid some really good groundwork for our students with community partnerships, with Door Lab, Sussex Community Preschool, really good work happening in those places. And what we want to do this year is think about how to strengthen those partnerships and then also bring some additional opportunities in the school community. So one partnership we want to strengthen that's here already is our Roadkill Cafe. So a lot of our students engage in vocational, recreational foods. Roadkill Cafe, I didn't know what that was on the first day that I came here, I had some questions, but now I get it. There was a lot of questions. It is a student-named cafe, the students love the name, so we will not change it. So what we will be doing there is the students that are 18 to 21 will have their day there. So in the morning, some of them will go out for job opportunities. Other students will stay in that cafe and do different skills, taking orders, distributing orders, things of that nature. And the good part about moving the work period to the morning is that it's a better use of our transportation resources, right? Because resources are finite, so we want to make sure we're maximizing the amount of time kids can spend out at work. And so by shifting that to the morning time, that allows us to do that. And then in the afternoon, the student will return, have a community meal that they cook together, and then have some recreational time and also build those life skills. So the real key with this is that we want it to feel different, not a continuation of high school, but in collaboration with my colleagues at other schools, their programs feel really different. Like I'm an adult now, I go to a different spot in the building, things like that. So we're really going to work on that. All right. Thank you. The other piece is community connection. I think there's so many amazing and valuable resources out here in Sussex County. I'm on the other side in Stillwater. But people in the community really want to support our kids. And I think that's a really important and valuable resource that we want to capitalize on. Business people wanting to come and speak to our students about what it means to maybe work in a restaurant, or what is it like to work at ShopRite, things like that, and really creating and fostering those relationships. So many people have given to our students and given up their time that we want to continue to grow those relationships, but also look for new ones. And I think this is a really valuable resource that we can continue to use and support. Everyone is so giving and supportive of our students, and to continue to work on that, something that's really important. The other key piece is transportation. This is probably the biggest concern of our families is there isn't such a solid public busing system, right? Like my kid's not going to be able to have a driver's license. So trying to figure out ways that we can think about connecting our students with resources for transportation that they can use into adulthood. That's something that's up in front of my mind and what I'm looking for some support with as well. And then investing in our young people here is an investment in the community. It's really important that we create those partnerships and those bonds, and we find ways that we can all take really good care of each other. Thank you, Mr. Yardley. All right, speaking of partnerships, this is my last slide, I promise. I really want to enhance partnerships and programming. So some things I've already done this school year to do that, sort of laying that groundwork and building these partnerships this time, is partnering with an organization called Dawn. And they've been doing intakes with some of our students to do 3 tiers of job preparations for our 9th and 12th graders. So tier 1 is sort of the very beginning skills, tier 2 is that next step up. And then the Step Up program is very exciting. So students would go through 24 sessions and possibly have the opportunity to do an internship this summer, which is excellent. So we're in the intake process. They're going to start the curriculum in a few short weeks. And so that's been a really nice partnership that we're going to continue for next year. The New Jersey Coalition of Inclusive Education. So I'll be applying for a grant through them for professional learning and support for teachers regarding inclusive education and supporting and removing barriers for our students. And myself and Mrs. Roman will be attending the summit. It is virtual, so we'll be attending on our computers, but that should be a nice opportunity to connect with other educators and hear about some ideas as well. The other really fun piece that we're continuing. Sports here are already very inclusive and supportive. I'm excited for our bowling event next Friday. But we are continuing to partner, Mr. Dexter and I, with the Special Olympics and Unified Sports. Track is on the way. And also with that program, we're partnering with a national program called Best Buddies, which is a partnership of general education students with students in special education to have them attend events and other exciting things. The final piece for us is we're doing more in-depth training with the Rutgers Work-Based Learning Certification and Coaching Program. So 2 of our teachers will be going through that to enhance and develop our skills around transition planning. It's a lot of information about transition. I'm happy and excited to get your ideas and thoughts. And I think that you guys are a really important and valuable partner for me in enhancing those community relationships. So I'm really excited to start the conversation here. I look forward to more conversations, and please do definitely reach out if you have thoughts or ideas. And I'm happy and excited to work with you guys. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have no other business on our agenda tonight, so we'll proceed to action items. The first action item is related to our upcoming board meeting and the one later in the year. Be it resolved that the Board of Education acknowledges and approves the changes to the 2022 board meeting schedule previously approved at the January 4, 2022 reorganization meeting as follows. March 22nd, 2022 will be changed to March 21st, 2022. And December 22nd, 2022 will be changed to December 20th, 2022. I'll make that motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? The only thing that I'll mention for the benefit of the public, I think because everybody else heard this already, is that the meeting on the 21st of March will commence at 5 p.m. With training, ethics training conducted by Kathy Hellowa from New Jersey School Boards. That will last approximately an hour. We'll do that, I believe, here, right? And that'll be in person. And then we'll proceed with our normal agenda as of 6 o'clock. So that's the only minor modification to that time. And I believe we'll post that as such. Any other comments? If not, roll call please.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Concord?
Yes.
Mrs. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Smith? Yes. Ms. Sedona?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland? Yes. Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now I'd like to turn it over to Mrs. Smith for curriculum instruction and technology.
Okay, so we're just recognizing on item A1, the faculty attendance rate, and the item A2, the student attendance rate, and item 3, the suspension report as attached. I'm going to move items 4 through 9 together. So item 4 is the recommendation to approve the HIB report as attached. 5 is curricular and co-curricular field trips as attached. Number 6 is professional development as attached. Number 7, the revision of the school board calendar, which has a change to the tentative last day of June 15th due to the emergency closing. Number 8 is the HIB self-assessment. And number 9, the dates for extended school year for our special education students. So making a motion, seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
I anticipate that it'll be changed yet again next month because of the emergency closing on Friday.
Which one?
It will be,
Number 7.
it will be, and maybe even adding another day as well.
I don't want to hear that.
So
I have plans for them in June.
if we do have one more day, the last day would be Friday, the 17th, for which we're hoping to conduct graduations. If there is another day, unfortunately, after that, it is, we deemed it appropriate to go to the Monday. The alternative would be reduce a day off of spring break, for which I think the benefits are not, the problems with that are greater than the benefits that would be derived from conducting on a Friday.
Great.
So if Friday does become a snow day, then this Friday, and Friday the 17th would be the date of graduation. If it is not, then we're currently scheduled for Thursday, even though you're about to approve one that's a Wednesday.
Right. Anybody else? Okay, roll call please.
Mr. Concord?
Yes.
Mrs. Schuman?
Yes.
Ms. Sedona?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
All motions carried.
Sure. Just for briefly, I'd like to just let the community know that Friday was an unfortunate circumstance where we were determined to be without power. We were notified and began to communicate back and forth around 5:23 in the morning. And we had determined, so we delayed appropriately, hoping that it would come back on. We were in communication with the power company, who stated that they would have it on by 9 o'clock. By 7 o'clock, we was like essentially the last moment we could decide by, because once students are being picked up, you can't go back. And we couldn't have students in the building without power. And so there was a narrow window by which we needed to determine. And so the last possible second to decide to close was by 7 o'clock. We made that decision at, I believe, 2 minutes to 7. As fate would have it, by 7:16, the power came back on. But as I had mentioned to the board, the determination had to be made, and we couldn't therefore go back on it. So that's the nature of it, and that's why we had to close. Thank you.
I'll turn to Mrs. Sedona for personnel items.
Okay, we sadly have some retirement, so I'm gonna move item 1, that we regret, we accept the retirement notification of Beth Walton, guidance counselor. I feel remiss that I'm not the historian that Anderson was, that I'm making a motion seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, if I may, just quickly, so I did get to meet Beth, Mrs. Walton, through my daughters who had her as a guidance counselor, but I do have to mention publicly that my latest experience with her as the lead negotiator for the HPEA, along with Ms. Mancuso and their team, was one that, well, I'm not gonna prejudge any votes that may happen later on, but we had a successful negotiations, primarily due to the people that were involved, and Mrs. Walton certainly one of them, so I wish her the best in her future endeavors.
Beth has had a positive impact on the community, our students, our staff. Our community is better for her having been here for the past 20 years. She is productive and professional and delightful, and she will be missed.
There's no further discussion, roll call please.
Mrs. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Mr. Concord?
Yes.
Ms. Sedona?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Motion carried.
I'd like to move item number 2, that we accept with regret the retirement of Margaret Darren, paraprofessional. Making a motion, seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Ms. Darren has been the educator that we look for in people. Love kids. That's what education is about, loving kids, and she does, and she has had a tremendous impact on all the students that she's come in contact with over her lengthy career here at High Point. And again, High Point is a better place for her having been here.
Okay, roll call please.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Mr. Concord?
Yes.
Mrs. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Sedona?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Number 3, I'm going to move number 3, which is also retirement. With regret, accepting the retirement notification of Joanne Koch, guidance counselor as well. Making motion, seeking a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Ms. Scotch is one of our more senior tenured individuals who have been at the district for quite some time. Although there may be a few remain who have been here longer than her, there may not be many. She has had a long distinguished career where her effervescent personality has been experienced by the staff and the students and the community for quite some time, and she too will be missed.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Smith? Yes. Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Comfort?
Yes.
Mrs. Schumann?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Ms. Sedona?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and then number 4, I'd like to move number 4, which is the accepting with regret the retirement notification of Karen Vandergruff as guidance secretary. Motion seeking a second.
Second.
Discussion. Secretaries are always very important, so, I mean, I don't know her personally, but.
She's had a long career. I think she came on at High Point as the secretary for the vocational guidance, and then she moved to the position in which she currently holds. She did have a stint as the principal secretary. In each position, she has distinguished herself and been very pleasant, and the staff and the kids love her, and she's had a long, tremendous career, and she too will be missed.
Other discussion, roll call, please.
Mr. Comfort?
Yes.
Mrs. Schumann?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Sedona?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And then for our final retirement, number 5,
There's another sentence. There's your second section.
that's my retirement.
Oh, I thought it said there's not.
Okay, so
Sorry, I
number 5,
apologize.
it's
I should put my
okay.
glasses on first.
With regret the retirement notification of Michael Langen, a teacher of social studies. Making motion seeking a second.
Second.
Discussion?
I will say, obviously all of these people, everybody, that comes through these doors is a valued member of this High Point community. But Mr. Langen is a name that comes up often in my household in a positive manner. And so I'm sad to lose another good one. Good, congratulations to him.
Yeah, Mr. Langen has essentially what was once referred to as the sage on the stage as a teacher whose knowledge and recall of history was almost eidetic. A tremendously popular, successful teacher who will be missed and who had a great influence, particularly on a niche of boys that really was influential, particularly for their particular needs. He is someone with whom I grew up professionally and as a man, and we raised our families together, and he will be missed, and his impact is unquestioned. Congratulations.
No further discussion, roll call, please.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Comfort?
Yes.
Mrs. Schumann?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Sedona?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and then I'd like to move items 6 through 11. Item 6 is to accept the resignation of Henry Howe, custodian. Item 7 is approve the following substitutes for the remainder of the school year, pending receipt of all required paperwork. Number 8 is to approve the appointment of Seamus Campbell as the Title IX coordinator for the 2021-2022 school year. Item 9 is to accept the termination of employee 1311 effective February 2nd, 2022. And number 10, number 10 is to approve James Visco as a part-time school security officer effective February 9th for the remainder of the 21-22 school year as listed.
And number 11 is to approve the following 6-period assignments effective January 31st through the end of semester 2 as listed below. Making a motion, seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to say Henry's a great guy, and we're gonna miss seeing him in the hallways here. He's a hardworking guy, and I know he's moving on to better himself.
Very hardworking and someone who will also be missed.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Schuman?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Plaza?
Yes.
Mr. Comfort? Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Dodona?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
All motions carried.
Turning now to Mr. Arnold for extracurricular.
Sure. I will move items 1 through 7. 1 is recommended by the superintendent that the board accepts the resignation of Donna Lembo from the following positions, effective at the end of the first semester of the 2021-22 school year as listed. Number 2, it is recommended that the board approve the following extracurricular appointments prorated effective for the second semester of the school year as listed. Number 3, recommended that the board approve Kate Finnegan as assistant girls lacrosse coach at $5,200, step 1 on the 2020-2021 extracurricular guide for this school year pending receipt of all required paperwork. Number 4, it is recommended that the board approve the creation of the Culinary Culture Club, in which students will examine cultures of the world through cuisine and providing home cooking skills. The club will be self-funded. Ms. Erin Myers shall serve as voluntary advisor. And number 5, it is recommended that the board approve Thomas Mitchell as volunteer baseball coach, pending receipt of required paperwork. Number 6, it is recommended that the board approve the following individuals as volunteers who assist with the spring musical, pending receipt of required background check as listed. And item number 7 is recommended that the board approve Rebecca Sanderson as volunteer girls lacrosse coach, pending receipt of required paperwork and background check. Make a motion seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
The culinary club will be required at each meeting to sing Karma Chameleon. Culture club.
Yeah.
We got it.
I don't.
I didn't get it, but it laughed anyway. I want to thank all of the volunteers. We have a bunch of volunteers this time around, so big thank you to you. And just a note that item number 3, Finnegans are personal family friends of mine, so I will be abstaining from that vote. But nothing against Kate. I hope the rest of you say yes. Any other discussion?
Item 6 that lists all of the other generous volunteers. The only one, I think I recognize the name that we do have listed later on in the agenda is actually possibly receiving a vendor payment. So does that qualify them as a volunteer or no?
It does because there are different positions.
Ah, okay. Very good. I will second Mr. Arnold's opinion of Ms. Finnegan having had a daughter that played alongside her for a little while. And also our other volunteer lacrosse coach, thanks for stepping up.
Anybody else?
I third that.
All right, roll call please.
Ms. Dodona?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mrs. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Comfort?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
I will abstain from item number 3 and yes to the vote.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
All motions carried.
Back to Mrs. Sedona for one policy item.
Yes, that's nice. Making a motion for number 1, that's recommended by the superintendent that the board approves the second reading of the following new policies and regulations. Policy 1648, .13, school employee vaccination requirements. Policy 1648.14, safety plan for healthcare settings and school buildings, COVID-19, and regulation 5751, sexual harassment of students. Making motion, seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Comfort?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Mrs. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Dodona?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
I would like to just clarify something about which we spoke earlier, if I may, just for a moment. June 17th may be a state holiday referred to as Juneteenth. If so, that will not be a day on which we can conduct school, but I am not certain, so I don't want to suggest that we can't. I have to look into it. If so, we would not conduct school on that day, and wouldn't necessarily go the following week.
Okay then, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Negotiations. So my pleasure to read this resolution. Item 1, be it resolved that the board approves the memorandum of agreement between the board and the High Point Education Association, HPEA, for the period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024, which was ratified by the HPEA on February 17th. And be it further resolved that the board authorizes the board attorney to prepare the collective bargaining agreement in accordance with the memorandum of agreement, and for the board president to execute the final agreement on behalf of the board. I will make that motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that item? Do we have none? So take a roll call vote. You see the block there, but I'm sure that's a vote.
I'm adding a block online. Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Ms. Sedona?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Plaza?
Yes.
Mrs. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Concord?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes,
Motion carried. Got everybody, right?
that was. All right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, I don't have a voting block, so I was going through. All right, everyone voted and it did pass.
Moving on, we have no buildings and grounds items, so next.
talk for.
Oh, would you like to speak? Sorry. Didn't mean to breeze over that.
I don't know if it was talked about in last month's meeting because I wasn't there, but the oil tank was removed, the old oil tank. The new one is functional. They had an issue with the sensor and that's been taken care of. There were no issues with the ground. The testing went well, and they're going to finish off in the springtime, the rest of the stuff. I also wanted to state that there are no planned improvements for the school this year because of the lack of funding.
Yes. Thank you. Well, that brings me to finance. Under finance, I will move items 1 through 8. 1 is a recommendation that the Board of Education accepts the report of the board secretary, business administrator for the month of January 2028. Item 2 is a recommendation to accept the report of the treasurer for the month of January 2022. I said 2028 before. 2022. On both 1 and 2. Apologies for using fast. Item 3 is a recommendation that the Board of Education approves the report of the transfers and minimum expense transfer report for the month of January 2022. Item 4 is a recommendation to approve for payment the attached schedule of audited bills dated February 22nd, 2022. Item 5 is a recommendation to accept the adult education agency account, athletic account, cafeteria account, principal's petty cash account, scholarship account, school store account, and student activities for the month of January 2022. And item 6 is a recommendation that a board approves the vendor payments for the spring musical to the individuals as listed below. Payment will be made through the spring student activities account, or High Point employees will be paid through the High Point Regional High School payroll account with no cost to the district, and they are as listed below. Item 7 is a recommendation to grant permission to the High Point softball youth clinic conducted by Mr. James Sack to host a non-affiliated co-ed camp, which will run March 22nd, 2022 and March 24th, 2022. Camp will be self-supporting and charge a participant fee. And finally, item 8 is a resolution, be it resolved that the board approves and authorizes execution of the following tuition contracts between High Point Regional High School and Sending and the following districts and related information as received. I will make a motion on those items. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, items 1 through 8 finance?
I just wanted to point out that on item 6, as obviously many people know, Mr. and Mrs. Sorchak have been part of this community and have retired several years ago. And so it's nice to just see them still being a part of the High Point community. I got nothing but love for them. I think that's fantastic.
Any other comments or questions? If none. Have a roll call vote on finance items 1 through 8.
Mrs. Newman? Yes. Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Cosmo?
Yes.
Ms. Sedona?
Yes.
Mr. Poplar?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
All motions carried.
I believe our last section of action items under transportation, Mr. Carazza.
I would move items 1 through 4 together. Item 1, recommendation the board approve and authorize the joint transportation agreement for the current school year as listed. Item 2, that the board approve and authorize a joint transportation agreement for the current school year as listed. Item 3 is that the board approve and authorize the quoted contracts for school-related activities for the current school year as listed. And item number 4 is request that the board approve and authorize the resolution for participation in coordinated transportation services for the current school year as listed. Making a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Comfort?
Yes.
Ms. Ireland?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mrs. Schuman?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Sedona?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
All motions carried.
Just to state the obvious, we have no long-term planning or legal items on the agenda, so I don't believe we have any correspondence. And the only item under miscellaneous is our school board mandated training, which I think everybody is apprised of. And they also know that we have ethics training set for before the next monthly meeting. So that leads us to the second public comment section of the evening. Same rules apply, if you will, to the second public comment session as the first one. Please state your name and address. You have 3 minutes. I'm by myself. We'll limit it to 45 minutes overall. Please be mindful that your comments are being recorded. So be respectful. If there's anyone in person that would like to make comments, please feel free to step to the podium. And we'll listen to you first before we turn to our virtual platform. Wherever you're more comfortable.
Virtual meeting, that's fine.
We might be able to hear you a little bit better if the microphone is all.
I just, I can breathe. Jada Bartz, 34 Union Avenue, back again. I want to speak out for kids again. And I will say this, that, there's a lot of information again coming up. I know I gave you all the dossier. I do know from a high school student that she managed to see it in the school nurse's office. I don't know how it got in the school nurse's hands, but it did. We have a constitution that my grandson still cannot tell me who the president is on the $1 bill. Because it's not being taught. And I will go on again about everything that I brought to your attention. But the one thing that disturbs me more than anything that I want to know is, where's the ESSER fund? I know about the ESSER fund. And I don't know about what the first phase was, but I know phase number 2 was $527,173. ESSER number 3, $1,183,957. This is monies that's going to the schools. This is monies that is going to not only the schools,
but I'd like to know where the money is. I'm going to look up the FOIA account, it's public information, that's my next step. And I would like to know because our kids have suffered for 2 years. They are the punishment on this ESSER fund. They are the punishment on this Fauci and Dayson and everybody else that has been doing this to our people, you and I and everybody else. And all of these children are suffering. We have doctors coming out now talking about our children not even being able to speak properly, even socialize properly, because of everything happening from the masking. We know that this is against the law. I brought this to your attention. We have constitutional rights. Where's this at in our schools today? My grandson can't tell me that. My grandson can't tell me nothing about the Constitution, and he's 14 years old. I had to pass the 8th grade, knowing the Constitution and the Bill of Rights in order to go to the 9th grade. Where is this in our society right now? Where is this in our schools right now? Where is anybody trying to tell our children that we the people have rights? And we the people are having rights taken against us. Okay, I'm tired. I just filed. I will tell you again. I'm sorry, Ken, not to mention you, because I know you're on the other board. They know. Because the bottom line is that these things that you are doing with our children is against the law. These ESSER funds that you're accepting, that you're taking funds from the government and you're holding our kids hostage. You're taking money and greed over our children. These children have a right. Our children are suffering more than us right now, and I will tell you that. That's a fact. Just like the doctors are coming out and letting you know that the children right now, they cannot speak properly, they can't socialize properly because things are being taken away from them from this crap. This crap. And I have COPD, I can't breathe well. The last thing I need is an oxygen penetrating thing and give me more CO2. I'm fed up. Everybody's fed up. This is all a bunch of crap. Our kids are punished. You're considering to allow them to be punished because you continue to take the ESSER funds. Yes, I'm done. But you're gonna continue to take the ESSER funds, greed over the kids. The kids deserve to have their rights back. The kids deserve to have their rights back. Thank you.
I'm not an attorney, but I can tell you that all of our financial information is available. I don't know that Freedom of Information will get it for you, but there are other avenues for you to see any of our audited financial.
The files.
That submitted an Oprah request.
Correct. I know about the ESSER. And I know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to step to the podium and make comments for the evening in person before we turn to our virtual platform? Please, sir. Yes.
My name is James Gwynn, 72 Glen Road, Wantage, New Jersey. I'm here tonight, let me just grab some documents. I'm here tonight, I'm gonna be short. I'm just looking for a couple answers on some documents I was made aware of last week. My daughter brought home some classwork from her 9th grade World Studies class. The work was really just a tolerance, it's from Teaching Tolerance, which is a project of the Southern Poverty Law Center. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the Southern Poverty Law Center, at tolerance.org. Basically, if you go to the website, it'll be pretty evident what it is. I mean, I'm pretty confident, I think I know what it is. I wanted to know if anyone here tonight on the board is familiar with it, or if these documents are part of our approved curriculum. I made copies, I'd be happy to hand them out. Or do you already know what they are?
I would appreciate a copy of that.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was a two-part, I'll just hand them here. I don't think I brought them up. These were, that was the document.
We'll just share.
Okay, now it's the worksheet.
I did see
You guys want to share? Where's the sheet?
Oh, yeah, we can share.
Yeah, so, really my question is this part of our approved curriculum?
So,
I'm not saying I have a specific problem with this lesson in itself, but I seem to have an idea where this is going. And I wasn't sure if this is a part of the approved curriculum, if this came from a specific teacher where our board's not aware of it, or are we aware of this and is this a plan going forward?
So Mr. Nguyen, so the purpose of our public comment session is to allow the
Right.
public to have the ability to make comments and ask questions, but we may or may not be able to answer them.
Right, I learned that last time.
I would ask first, prior to your approaching the board in full about this, did you go through any other channels?
No,
This
because, no, I decided not to because, I did not want to bring attention to specific student or the teacher, where it came from. I didn't want to call out any teachers, I didn't want to get anyone involved. I figured the best course of action was to find out if it's part of the curriculum, because if it is part of the curriculum, then it's a whole nother round of questioning that I would need to take.
Okay.
So basically, that's really the only question I have, is it approved?
Is this particular document, is it you're asking?
Yeah, or do we have not only this particular document, but are there other teaching lessons that we have in our curriculum that come from the Southern Poverty Law Center, or any other, whatever you want to call them? I don't want you to say it, but anyone else that's teaching tolerance.
So, tolerance is a requirement.
Okay, I understand that.
So what I would say is that the document to which you're making reference was fully vetted. It was reviewed, and I will state unequivocally that the document in and of itself is an exceptional teaching tool. The location from which it was derived, formerly and throughout for perhaps 50 years, had been a group from which such primary source documents could be utilized. It is my understanding that recently they have ventured into representing a political perspective that many may find objectionable.
Yes.
And I will let you know that as much as I would suggest and defend and support this particular assignment, it does not in any way reference the source from which it was derived, nor do we advocate, nor do we utilize that in any way to reference what I assume you're referring to as what's coming next. I believe that in reviewing this document, you will agree that, or I would assume and hope that it is actually quite an exceptional, or at least a strong example of primary source documents.
I believe so too. That's why I stated I
And
have
so-
absolutely no problem with this specific document.
So there's a leap that I think that some may be taking that is not our anticipated leap. And so I have stated here publicly at board meetings that critical race theory is not a component of High Point's approved curriculum, but documents such as this, which may have come from a website that may have, to some political leanings, that is, we're teaching from the document. We're not teaching the website, but the document itself. And I affirm and support the teacher's choice of this particular document. And I would suggest that this is an excellent opportunity for our students to understand history in a way that it brings it to life so that they, as this assignment states, are able to discern and interrogate different historical documents.
Oh, I agree 100%. I'm not for not teaching any history, good or bad. It's just concerning to me because from what other school districts, I'm sure we see it every night, everyone's seen it, where sometimes this leads. And I feel reassured now that it's not going to lead there. So I appreciate your honesty. And
in the future, sir, I welcome any communication with me should you have any future concerns, whether over this or anything else.
yeah,
Please bring it to my attention so I can, we can have a conversation. Look, our community is involved in a part of who we are and what we do. Our goal and our purpose is to not just provide a world-class education, but also to represent our community. And as I stated, I believe that this is an excellent document. However, I understand your concerns, or at least I think I do. And should you have any concerns in the future regarding this or any other matter, please feel free to reach out to me so that we can have a conversation so I can hopefully assuage any concerns you might have.
right. I'm just not always, I'm not privy to the curriculum. So I don't see this all the time. It's
All of our
just-
curriculum maps, I believe, are accessible and are online.
Okay,
Is that accurate?
Yeah, yes.
okay. So, all right.
Not that we don't welcome public input, we certainly do. We have these sessions for a reason, not just because they're mandatory. We do like to hear opinions of our community.
Yeah, no,
So
I
thank you for
didn't
coming
come to
forward.
complain or to scream, or it was a concern and just wanted to know where it was, and I'm glad I got your viewpoints. And, I feel much better.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Nguyen, thanks for bringing that up in this meeting and getting that statement from Mr. Ripley.
Yeah,
Because it helps for the community to understand
it helped me.
what is
also.
happening.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Sorry, guys, Ken Nuss, 4 Northville Drive in Wantage. My comments tonight are made from myself, not representing the board that I'm on.
Which you just for the public, and please state the board that you are on.
Oh, that's Wantage.
Thank you.
Board of Ed, sorry. I give you guys a lot of credit. I know what it's like to sit up here and how we from the community. It's actually, I don't want to say it's funny, but I get confused a lot. People think that I'm on this board, and I get calls all the time, and I have to say I'm Sussex Wantage, you have to go. So ironically, I got a call about that as well, and connected with Jim. So it was good to hear your response about this Southern Poverty Law Center. It's something that I'll be addressing on Thursday in our district as well, because we don't know exactly what happens, with teachers, and you can't see everything. I mean, as director of curriculum, I totally understand that. I guess what I would like to maybe get out of this when we leave here today for parents is if there are questions, like you said, to call you, Dr. But is there a process in place if there are concerns from parents based on what teachers might be teaching. You know, something comes home, you know, like Jim came here, I came here, so you're going to address it, but what's the process behind the scenes? I know that's what I want to address at my board, you know, this week, but what's gonna be the process? Because we see what happens on the news and what's happening around. So if there are complaints, like what do you want?
So if there's any particular complaints, I'm sorry, you can reach out to your student's supervisor, the supervisor of the teacher in the particular class, and they can apprise you of the nature of the vetting of our curriculum. Should you have any further questions or clarification, you can reach out to our director of curriculum, Mr. Campbell, or our principal, Mr. Talany. And should you be request or seek further clarity, you can always reach out to me.
And if I may on
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
knowing that you are a school board member and have been through the same training that we all have here, I'd address the issue to you a little differently than maybe to the general member of the public. You and I know that school board members are here to see that the schools are run properly, not to run the schools, right? So we would refer issues like this to go through the chain of command, if you will,
Walking
prior to.
through this, so people that are maybe listening will understand what's dealing. You know, and it was nice, I do want to comment, Carla's comments earlier were refreshing, that you know, she sees the kids excited about the ability to get the masks off, and that the teachers were willing to work through that. So I, you know, again, I appreciate that. I thought that was nice to hear from teacher. I guess that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And any other public comments in person?
Am I even allowed to do it a second time?
Yeah,
I just want something.
Sure, quickly, I will make sure we have time for our other virtual people if there are any, but feel free.
Is there anybody?
I don't know yet, I haven't asked, sorry. No, so perhaps we maybe don't have any virtual, so.
It's just, I apologize about earlier. I will apologize about earlier breakdown from 9/11, because we came here 20 years ago from 9/11. We moved from Cincinnati to come here, and my husband had worked at the Trade Center on South Tower. So my son had to move here and start 7th grade at the middle school. And then he came to this high school, and everything went well from sports, you know, skiing and everything. I don't wanna be up here, I don't wanna be doing this. I really don't. But I'm trying to protect our children, because they're coming after our kids, and everything that I gave you in December was enough evidence that I filed a suit. I just so you know, I've already filed a motion. I went to the county prosecutors. I not only filed a motion, but I've also filed with the sheriff, because of the crimes against humanity and everything that's happening. So I don't know if any of you that might have read what I sent, but the 9/11 clip took me back, because we have rights. We are Americans. We the people. And we had the opportunity to stand up and speak out for our children, and that's all I'm trying to do, is speak out for the children. So, thank you again, thank you.
I'm just gonna provide one reminder to any of the virtual attendees that if you would like to make a comment, you need to use the virtual raise your hand feature so that we can recognize you and unmute your microphone. So I'll give a couple of minutes if there's anybody virtual, any virtual attendees that would like to make comments, please raise your virtual hand. No takers? Okay. With that, I'll ask for a motion to close the second public comment session.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's run through our last few items. Are there any non-committee board member reports or comments from board members? Okay, the only remaining item is under other business, and it's just for information only. For the purposes of public disclosure and in accordance with Open Public Records Act, the High Point Regional High School Board Office has received and responded to the following Oprah requests over the past month, and there is one as listed. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now adjourned.